everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Twanger's Turntable, at Twanger's Turntable, of debuts in my collection. We're going to do episode 9 today. Hope you're all doing well. A shout out to friends, families, all the vinyl community, YouTube community out there. Appreciate you tuning in, taking some time, and giving a watch. If you're new, I hope you stick around. If you're returning, again, like I say, I really appreciate it. So today I'm just going to do compact disc. As those who have seen this channel before, it's strictly just debuts that are in my collection, either on the cassette, compact disc, or vinyl format. And it's not any commentary on whether I think they're great, good, or indifferent. In my opinion, they're just strictly debuts that I have picked up over the years for one reason or the other. In fact, truth be told, there's a lot that I don't even have in my collection anymore. We moved around several times. The last move we had across country in 2015. Prior to that, I actually did purge, I think, quite a lot, in my opinion. Even a few sometimes seems like a lot. It's like, I don't want to give them away. But I certainly gave a lot to one of my older brothers at that juncture. But I digress. These are just ones that I simply have now, and some of them I've held on for. I have a fondness either about the music or memories associated with that particular band, group, whatever the case may be, artist. These particular ones, only a couple of them have any real significant meaning to me, and I can, for the most part, take them or leave them. But they are debuts, so I'm including them in my series, and this being episode 9. And I'll start off with 2002, and it's kind of a post-punk, hardcore, emo band from that era, The Used, and this was their debut. If you like that type of music, it's certainly in the same vein as AFI, My Chemical Romance, Sensefield, that kind of early millennium music of the early 2000s. But that's their debut from 2002, Love It or Hate It. It's okay. It's not something I put on regular rotation, but I probably have a couple of their songs in my playlist. Speaking of which, on the videos I do, my episodes, I will attach a link to a playlist of their music, of all the artists presented here, and so you can sample it if you've not heard of them. There will be an avenue for you to do so. But yeah, that's their debut from 2002, The Used. Also a debut. They actually only released 2 albums. And they're kind of a super group. This one was from 2004, consisting of Scott Weiland from STP, Stone Temple Pilots. Of course, Slash and Duff McKagan and Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses. It's funny, even to this day, when I think of Guns N' Roses, I think of Steven Adler, but it was Matt Sorum after Adler. And what was the other gentleman's name? Dave. Put my glasses on. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Dave Kushner of Wasted Youth, of course, yes. So, and of course, I'm talking about 2004 release from Velvet Revolver, Contraband. This was one of 2, I believe. After the second one, I think Scott Weiland abruptly left to rejoin Stone Temple Pilots, stuff they were working on at the time, and then unfortunately passed away shortly after that. I mean, it's hard rock, heavy rock, nothing all that spectacular in my humble opinion. It's just, your run-of-the-mill hard rock. I think if you're familiar with Slash and Duff McKagan, Stone Temple Pilots, that stuff, you kind of know what to expect with this. That's their debut from 2004 of Velvet Revolver. I think the first time I heard these guys was off a soundtrack of a movie. Perhaps it was at the end of a movie or something. Or maybe I'm thinking of Audioslave. But there's some obviously popular tunes that were on here. Fall to Pieces, that would have been a big one. Oh, Dirty Little Thing. Headspace, yeah, some good tunes, but yeah, debut from Velvet Revolver, one of two I believe they released. I never really followed them that closely, so correct me if I'm wrong. Leave a comment. Another one. This is one of the ones I was talking about where I do have some fond memories regarding, and only because not so much the band itself. The band itself, I can kind of take it or leave it. I do appreciate them, and certainly in the era, was that kind of new metal era, late '90s, early 2000s, but my son actually introduced these guys to me. So shout out to you, AJ. This was one of those ones where whenever I put it on, I think of you. Godsmack. This is their debut from 1998. And the big one off of here for me was Voodoo, right? But yeah, Sully also played drums on this one. And I'm sorry, for those who are not familiar with Godsmack, Sully Erna is essentially the vocalist, the primary songwriter. He can play anything, and this is the debut. In fact, they recorded an album or an EP, a demo called All Wound Up prior to this, which is essentially the same thing. This is just once they were signed, remixed with some editing done, additions, subtractions, but essentially the same album. In fact, I think the only primary difference was London, Someone in London and Get Up, Get Out. I think on the original All Wound Up, that was one song, and they broke it into two songs on this, their debut. But yeah, include Tony Rambola. That's the guy. He was on guitar, and I was alluding to the scene of the new metal in the late '90s, early 2000s, and oftentimes to me it all kind of sounds so similar that I can't be bothered, to be honest. But he kind of stood out for me. His guitar, he seemed to not stick to that mold of what everybody else was doing, and so and then Robbie Merrill was on bass. And often you'll see the videos that I post in the link that come with this. It'll show somebody else playing drums, and the name escapes me now, but essentially it is Sully who plays on the record. He plays drums on that, and yeah, it's a decent debut. But most importantly for me, like I say, it fond memories of my son calling me into his. We had bought him a little computer for Christmas, just not long before that, and so he was checking out some music, and that was one of the songs. You got to hear this, Voodoo, and yeah, so it stuck with me. It's got some good memories. Thanks, AJ. I still listen to that from time to time, especially that tune. I mean, it's on my playlist for sure. Next one, 1988, and this vocalist, she's a folk singer more or less. Oftentimes, especially on this album, it's very political and social commentary, her lyrics and whatnot. But 1988 debut from Tracy Chapman, just an amazing vocalist actually, and songwriter. In fact, I think in 2017 or thereabouts, 2021, more recent than that, she, Rolling Stone, love them or hate them. I mean, it is what it is. These lists sometimes are, I think, ridiculous. Out of the 500 greatest albums of all time, she was ranked number 71 for this album. Did all the writing, singing, everything on this album. And the most popular tunes on here, probably Fast Cars and talking about Revolution, Mountains with Things. I mean, they're all good tunes, but certainly those. And speaking of Fast Cars, and she actually performed that tune among others on Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday celebration. I think she came on right after Stevie Wonder or something. He had some technical difficulties. She came on and performed acoustically, if I recall, Fast Cars and talking about a Revolution. Just an amazing performer and vocalist. If you've not heard her, check out the samples I have in the playlist. And the demo she had done prior to this was essentially all the songs that appear on here with the exception of Fast Cars. Fast Cars wasn't going to appear on here, but once the producer heard her performing it or whatever, insisted that yeah, I definitely had to go on here, and so it did, and the rest, as they say, is history. Great debut. Went 6 times platinum. It was #1 in the Billboard 200 in the U.S. I mean, everywhere. It was, you know, quite successful for her. Next up, another one of those albums I mentioned. Some of them I can take them or leave them. This one, every time I hear these guys, I remember we were living in Calgary at the time. My nephew Robbie was visiting. This would have been in the early 2000s. Well, it would have had been. This came out in 2003, so it was probably right around that time he was visiting, 2003, 04, somewhere in there. And they were playing at the Calgary Stampede. But this is their debut from 2003, 3 Days Grace. And I didn't even know them at the time when we saw them. I don't know if any of us did. Maybe Robbie did. If you ever see this, Robbie, leave a comment. Do you remember that? I mean, there was a few bands playing. I think maybe, was it Finger 11 and 3 Days Grace? A lot of Canadian acts, right? So anyway, this is their debut, 3 Days Grace. And I mean, there's some pretty popular tunes on here I think that most people will be familiar with that are, you listen to any kind of FM radio at the time or whatnot. Probably all over Much Music. I don't know. I never really watched that. I Hate Everything About You, Just Like You, Home. Those are the big ones. But a lot of good tunes on here. I still like these guys. 3 Days Grace, this is their debut. Yeah, the original vocalist left in 2012 or 2013. And funny enough, they kept going strong, right? The stuff they even released after that was really good. But this went 2 times platinum in the US, platinum in Canada. Did pretty well. Neil Sanderson on drums, as I mentioned. Adam Gontier, I think I'm pronouncing that right, correct me if I'm wrong, was the vocalist at the time on this one. But yeah, that's their debut, 2003, 3 Days Grace. But yeah, definitely some fondness to that one, just due to the sharing that experience with my nephew at the Calgary Stampede. I don't know if you remember that, Robbie, but yeah, I hope you remember it. What would you have been doing that you wouldn't remember that? I can only imagine. Anyway, I digress. Last but not least, just an amazing vocalist again. This is their 2003 debut, Evanescence Fallen. She actually appeared with another band I like, Seether. She did some work with Seether. I think she might have been married to the guy. I don't know. That's a bunch of pop culture that I don't get too much into. But this is their debut, and it's primarily Amy Lee and Ben Moody at the time. Those two were the primary members of the band. That's them there. And they were joined by some studio musicians, including Josh Freese on drums, which those of you familiar with A Perfect Circle, he was on their debut as well, Mur de Gnomes in 2000. He played drums on there. Great drummer. Well, they're better than me. Anyway, this is the debut, 2003. Hit after hit on here. I mean, this one was huge. I think it went like 6 times platinum, if not more. I don't remember. I didn't look it up, actually. I should have looked it up. What am I doing? But yeah, that's their official studio debut from Evanescence. And obviously went on to have a really good career. But yeah, I actually have some Seether with her on it. I forget what the tune was, but anyway, I've got a few of the Seether albums. I really like them, a band out of South Africa. But that's going to wrap it up. I'm only doing 6 artists today, 6 CDs. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. If you liked it, give a thumbs up. Subscribe, hit notifications so you'll see episode 10 will be next. Wow, 10 episodes. I never ever thought I'd do one. I was kind of edged on with the grandsons to do that one, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm still here, sticking with it. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, as I mentioned, and I hope you are all doing well. And if I haven't already, shout out to my friends and family. Always thinking about you. Love you all. Just on a personal note, received some excellent news from my sister this week that she's completely cancer-free now, and I'll leave it at that. That's just a blessing. Love you. And yeah, I will see you next time on Twanger's Turntable. Thanks for tuning in, and take care, everybody. Cheers.